Maureen, one of the assertions that is out there, the narrative that is out there that we hear frequently, particularly when folks such as yourself and the other angel moms speak out, is that, you know, we really don't need to talk about this crime issue in connection with illegal immigration because, you know, there are some researchers, academics, and so on who have claimed to find that illegal aliens are actually commit less crimes than Americans do, so there's no reason for us to worry about this. What do you say? I know you must have heard that.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, much of that data is faulty, but it doesn't really matter. Illegal aliens are killing over 4,000 people a year. They shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be committing any crimes. How much crime are we willing to accept from illegal aliens? There also is data out there that shows that illegal aliens actually commit crimes at a much higher rate. But again, my son being killed was one death too many.
Thank you, thank you. Sheriff Hodgson, you have a 287G program in your county, which is a partnership with ICE that has been used successfully in many counties and cities and states across the country since the early 2000s. And your sheriffs cooperate to the extent, your deputies cooperate to the extent possible and work with ICE. Does that impose a cost on county taxpayers, though? Is that a legitimate reason for citizens in your county to question that cooperation? And do you feel like what you're doing is really doing ICE's job for them?
That's actually a great question, and again, misinformation that's often given out that it costs the taxpayers money for us to do this. First of all, we generate, it costs me about $94 a day per detainee that I hold in my facility. And they pay us $98 a day per detainee. We generate about close to $8 million a year by running the ICE operation. And I built that building without state money. So the point is, these officers are they're not focused always on detainees that come in, illegals that come in. But when they do come in, they are trained by ICE to be able to do the interview and make determinations with the manager as to whether or not the people will be held. And the types of people that I'm talking about, for example, in our facility, we've had 544 encounters since FY18. FY19, we've had 257 encounters, and these are people who've committed rape of a child, mass armed robbery, assault, battery with a deadly weapon, domestic A and B, violation of abuse and prevention orders, OUI, and encounters. What I would, and OUIs. What I would tell you is, I can't think of anything more costly than to release any one of those people back out in the community to commit another rape or another armed robbery or what have you, be brought through the system again. Trials, prison, and maybe deportation back again. So no, it's more costly if we don't do this for the taxpayer, and even within our operation, it doesn't cost taxpayers.
Thank you. Jasmine, there is most definitely a nexus between sex trafficking and illegal immigration, and you can see it in the federal statistics on prosecutions of trafficking, of not just sex trafficking, but also drug trafficking as well. Can you describe or tell us some of the industries that are involved in as either fronts for sex trafficking or promoting this or enabling it?
Yeah, sure. You'll see a lot of Asian massage parlors in our communities, and that is definitely a spot where women from Asia come here, whether they're thinking they're coming to America to get a better job, they're promised that they'll get citizenship, and they get here before they know it. they're working in a brothel in an Asian massage parlor that's posed, as a spa or a body works or a foot place, but it's completely a front for prostitution. And then these women are here, and then they're trapped and they can't leave, and they have a huge amount of debt to pay back, which they'll never pay back, and all their documents and passports are taken away. And the worst of all, they don't speak the language, so it's really hard for them to get support. And when Homeland Security goes in and does a raid, they try to offer these women support and a way out, but they're so afraid and they don't understand the language, and they are told by their traffickers that they'll be killed or their families will be killed, or that immense amount of cultural shame that is put on them for being tricked into the commercial sex trade, that they don't go for the help. They just ask to be sent. And a lot of times here in Massachusetts, when they do these raids, the women always want to go back to Flushing, New York. There's this place that they go back from Massachusetts to Flushing to Vermont, and it's just like this cycle. So definitely bodywork, Asian massage parlors, some nail salons, Chinese restaurants. You'll also find, labor trafficking, so hotels sometimes, hire illegal immigrants to work in hotels, but they're not paying them the right amount of money. And again, they don't have their documents or any information. Domestic servitude, nannies. I met plenty of women. And again, most women that are in the form of labor trafficking are are foreign nationals, excuse me. And most of the sex trafficking you have here in America are domestic women, or you have Asian. That's usually who you see. So those are the types of places to be on the lookout for.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan, obviously there's not one thing that's going to solve the problem of illegal immigration, but I'm interested in if there's a single most important thing, or maybe you can take two, one or two most important things that you think would be the most critical to addressing this problem.
Well, there would be a lot of things. If we could have our wishes at the national level, you could have national E-Verify. It's only a volunteer program. That would really cut down on illegal immigration to the United States.
That's the program that allows employers to check that their workers are authorized to.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. Any business can voluntarily use it. There are about 12 to 15 states that have some sort of E-Verify program they've put in place since 2008, and we've seen unemployment tend to go down after you have E-Verify at the state level. And so that proves that Americans will do jobs that are out there if they're paid at a fair market rate. Another thing that needs to be done, many other countries have a exit-entry system, a biometric exit-entry system. America does not, and when you talk about that 1 million illegal immigrants that have come here on average since the year 2000, there have been some years of 800,000 in Obama's last year, or 1.5, but it was an average of 1 million. Well, half of those on a daily basis now are visa overstays. They could be students, they could be people who were guest workers. So this is something that, I'm not here to beat up on people from South America or the Triangle countries. That's another easy fix. If Congress would take action, that would work. And as I already mentioned, then if you look at the merit-based reforms at the national level, that would take care of, you would get the best high-skilled legal immigrants, and then you would not have the chain migration. So if you could end the chain migration and get an emphasis on the high-skilled immigration, that would work. At the local level, that's where the real fight is. I think the Trump administration has done as about as good of a job as they can do. But E-Verify will always be a state-level battle, and that is something that I certainly work on quite a bit. Passing anti-sanctuary state laws, so that even though it's already the law of the land that any law enforcement officer can get free training to learn how to honor a 287G ICE detainer, they're blocked from doing it in about 534 counties or county equivalents in America out of 3,500. This is really sad. This is the law of the land that Bill Clinton signed in 1996, that you can honor a 287G ICE detainer if you get that free training. or you may even have your whole program, your whole sheriff's department, like Sheriff Hodgson integrate. Well, hold on. I take that back. There are many sheriffs that have a 2A7G program, 50 odd, have an actual program where their whole staff and everyone gets trained. But you know, that is a real battle when you see states like Massachusetts that is about to they try every year to make the whole state into a sanctuary state, and that is why illegal immigrants come to Massachusetts, because they, again, I mentioned, they get the free education because of the Plyler versus Doe case, they get the free minimum benefits, and then the third piece of the puzzle is the ICE detainers, and that's what really I like to work on at the local level, and I'll be able to speak to you more about that later.
All right, thank you all. So we have a microphone set up over here to the left side there, and if those of you who have a question, I'll give you a few seconds to get over there. I think the point that Jonathan made about having a state anti-sanctuary law is important. I think there are about 10 states now that have them, and there is a bill that's been introduced in the Massachusetts legislature by Representative Mark Lombardo, I believe, of Bill Ricca, that would do exactly that. So, yes, sir, what question do you have for either the panel or for a specific member of the panel?
This would be for the sheriff.
Okay, great.
My name is Bill Heck. I live in Newton. And I would like for you to talk about the most misunderstood word with illegal immigration, and that is deportation. And the fact that we hear on the news, well, the person committed this crime, that crime, and the next crime, and was deported, as though that is some sanctimonious action that has occurred that will forever cleanse this problem that this person has done. Only to find that the person has been deported 7 other times. Would you please discuss that?
Sure, that's probably one of the most frustrating situations that's going on in our country right now, where someone was picked up, they were put through the system, they were deported, and they're maybe even within 2 days are right back in the country again. And we find that, and we're reading about these cases every day, and I would encourage you, if you're on social media where you're seeing these cases, somebody's raped 6 or 100 kids, I just saw one the other day, sexually abused 100 kids, been deported 4 or 5 times. I had a girl whose father shot and killed her right there in the middle of the day, who'd been deported before. They've done 10 years in jail here for assault with a deadly weapon prior. And we not only now have angel moms and dads, in her case, we now have an angel child who has no parents because she didn't have a father that was anywhere around, and the mother, of course, was shot and killed. The point being that these judges and people, when you have people saying create these sanctuaries and all this, these people are coming back into the country because they're going to these sanctuary locations because it's hands-off. And I'm going to tell you what's happening in Buceras out in California. Probably exemplifies what's so wrong. That's the Attorney General out there. He basically came out and had a press conference and said, any of you business owners who attempt to cooperate with ICE and identify someone, now keep in mind, we've all been talking for years about the importance of neighborhood watch, right? We need our neighbors to tell us what's going on and report people, whether deported before, what have you. And they were told, you business owners, legitimate business owners, attempt to cooperate with ICE and identify anybody that may be in your company or wherever, you're going to be prosecuted. So, business owners.
For what? For what?
For violating the sanctuary policy.
Right, there's a state law
Not-
that says that they are not allowed to
So-
cooperate.
So basically, where we are now is, for all the years law enforcement said, we need you, report things, let us know. We're now being told by people in government that are supposed to be representing us, that if you do it, you're going to get prosecuted. So you law-abiding people who otherwise were interested in helping keep your community safe, if you dare to try to do that, and you don't go into the shadows and be quiet, you're gonna get prosecuted. So you need to let the people who are in the shadows, who aren't supposed to be here, to come out of the shadows and wander around your neighborhoods with a protected bubble. That's essentially, ladies and gentlemen, where we are right now, with sanctuaries.
So if we report something, if we say something, we're in trouble?
It's in California.
This is California.
The
But-
model for many of our state legislators.
It's the same, right, exactly. So all I'm saying is, on the deportation issue, these people keep coming back in. They're committing crimes. Look what happened with the judge, okay, who was ready to, who let this guy out the back door. We've seen it in other cases, where they know these people have been deported, and they don't want to let ICE get custody of them, because it's a felony if you come back in a second time, or third time. Every time you come back after you've been deported, it's a felony. But these legislators and these liberal judges, they won't let law enforcement carry out the stricter, enforcement of the law. They'll protect these people.
Are we ready for questions?
Yes, sir.
This question is directed towards Jonathan and towards Jessica. You talked earlier about the Supreme Court case which says that we have to educate illegal children who are here illegally, through high school, all the way from high school. Has there ever been a consideration to amend the Constitution, put in language saying that no non-U.S. citizen is entitled to any benefits, educational or otherwise? And my second question is relates to illegal children. How many are involved in either Department of Children and Families here in Massachusetts? How many children are involved in our juvenile justice system? And how many children in general are illegals here in Massachusetts?
Wow, well,
A lot of questions.
that is quite a lot to handle. Plyler versus Doe is the case you mentioned. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not entirely familiar with it, but I don't think they would actually try to amend the Constitution to handle that all. I do think Congress could act and make they would have, I don't think they would have the political courage to act to try to block, to require proof of legal status to get a public education. So I hate to say it, but I think that's one that we're just kind of stuck with. I do think, you do see a lot of communities that will put out various ordinances to prevent, and not just law enforcement, but any public official or any public employee, which includes also the teachers, so they are not able to report illegal immigrants or illegal immigrant children when they come into their school. And you will often see in certain places, 16 or 17-year-old freshmen in high school, trying to make up these gaps. And of course, everybody knows who these folks are and why they're here, and they just, that is kind of a ticking time bomb that's waiting to happen. But I don't have the specific numbers for the different Massachusetts agencies that you mentioned.
Yeah, that decision, I agree with Jonathan, probably is here to stay. The one that people are starting to talk about challenging is the interpretation of the 14th Amendment that provides U.S. citizenship to all those born on U.S. soil and subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And I think there are some ideas percolating about how to address that. With respect to Massachusetts, my memory is not always what it used to be, but I want to say that it's believed that there are something like 130,000 of the illegal aliens in Massachusetts are kids, or that may be the number of U.S.-born children plus minors who are here, but it's a significant number. Thanks.
Hi, Sandy Demerjian from Lincoln, Mass. Lincoln, Mass, believe it or not, just four Republicans, I'm one of them. This is a question about Trump's idea for the sponsorship. When I got married years ago, Reagan was president, and my husband was Iranian Armenian from Iran. Of course, we remember the hostages and the whole mess, but it was after that. And we wanted his parents to come to the wedding. And my dad owned a construction company and had the money, paid a lawyer, and we went through sponsorship forms like it was the size of a book. I mean, I can't tell you what we filled out, and paid lawyers $10,000. And we could not get them here for even a wedding. We only wanted them here for a month or 2 weeks or whatever we could get, and the government would not let them in. What happened? This is insane. It's the complete reverse. And we even wrote letters and said that they could just come for 2 weeks, and on top of it, my family was really close with Tip O'Neill at the time. Tip O'Neill tried, and we couldn't get these people here. And this is how crazy it's become. What is going on with the sponsorship idea that Trump has, and is it as strong as that?
Yeah, they're definitely trying to address the problem that you identified, everyone who petitions for or sponsors someone to be an immigrant to the United States is supposed to sign and agree to support that individual for the time that they are in the United States. And after 5 years as an immigrant, you can qualify for public assistance and other federally funded welfare programs. But successive administrations have and this law has been on the books since the 1800s, but successive administrations have just chosen not to enforce it, not to empower adjudications officers and consular officers to deny these visas to people who don't qualify and are not self-sufficient. And that's one of the key things that the president is interested in fixing, and I think that if his directives are implemented, that they will fix it. Problem is, what happens with the next president? Really, it would be nice if Congress would write the laws to change it, but at least now we have a president who wants to enforce the laws that are on the books, and it will make a difference. But I agree with Jonathan also that the way to address the fiscal costs of immigration are not just to prevent illegal immigration, but also to admit fewer immigrants who are here because of family ties or distant family ties, and more on the basis of skill or merit. Next.
Hi, my name is Joe Rizzoli. I run a group in Framingham called CC-File, Concerned Citizens and Friends of Illegal Immigration Law Enforcement. I started my group in 2003. I'm catching up to Tom over here with being involved in doing this immigration stuff. I just want to make a point of something you said about the massage parlors. I've dealt with all these topics in my town, all this stuff. I write letters constantly to the Metro West Daily News. In fact, today they just had an article in the Metro West Daily News. The immigrants aren't committing any more crime than anybody else, the illegal immigrants. So that's in the paper today, in the editorial section. So that tells you how much the Metro West Daily News is, whose side they are on. Now, the point I wanted to make about the massage parlors, they had an article, they had a section in the paper a couple of years ago. It took up a third of the paper about the requirements for the massage parlors. They had the police involved in this with the requirements, and they had the health department involved in this with the requirements. Not one thing was said about legal status. If they solved the legal status, as was brought out, about the people who are working in these places, they'd solve half the problem with the massage parlors. And they mentioned, I'm telling you, a big thing like this, all the rules, regulations, blah, 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 and not one thing about immigration status. And I think,
Is it for Jasmine?
yeah, I don't know, but I have another point I want to make, if you want to say something.
Do you have a question? 'Cause
Well,
let's go with that one,
my
and there is a
question,
lot of.
oh, I understand that. My question is, I have real issues in my town. I mean, ESL program, things that are happening, and of course, they just ignore it, and they just, and believe me, I love this panel, what you've done, what you said tonight. I've learned quite a bit, it's terrific. But I don't see you getting specific about things and helping people like me or my group out in my specific town, saying, oh yeah, in Framingham we have this problem and we'd like to see this solved, the ESL problem. I don't think most people even know what's going on with ESL.
That's a great question. What can people do, John?
So, yes, well, number one, anyone who wants to work at the local level and the state level here, you gotta come and get my card. because that's what I work on. You know, in 2017, we were fighting the same sanctuary state bill, and I had the privilege of testifying alongside Sheriff Hodgson and Jessica, but I worked with a number of groups such as Renew Massachusetts and the Massachusetts Citizens for Immigration Reform, and I'd love to bring your group into that. And we've got the great folks from Keep Newton Safe here. So what you can do is you can work with them, you can work with this fellows group, get in touch with me. I can provide educational help, so I can help you sharpen up your testimony and provide a number of other educational resources. But I will need to get your contact info, and we can do this. Maryland, I build in the state of Maryland, I work with a coalition of about 5 different groups, and we brought them out to testify, and our star, our great volunteer Maureen put it down, and for a couple of years and did testify, and we were able to kill the sanctuary bill in that state, and I think we can get it done here again in Massachusetts, but we can hold it together.
And I'll just go through them quickly again. The Renew Mass Coalition, which is one of the most important public interest policy advocacy groups. We've got MCIR, Massachusetts Coalition for Immigration Reform, Safe Boston, AVIAC, Bags of Hope, FAIR, CIS, so some choices there.
Could I just add one more thing on that point that was brought up earlier by the gentleman about illegal, the issue around illegals don't commit more crimes than the American citizens and what have you. Even if that were true, why would we celebrate the idea that people that are in this country that don't belong here or here illegally are committing more crimes? Why would we celebrate any crime, even if it's in America, it's one more crime being committed? It's a bogus argument. It's an argument to detract, to take you away, and make you believe there's no big deal about illegal immigration. Don't fall for it. And by the way, when you hear somebody start mixing up, as the pro-illegal people do, and refuse to use the term illegal and mix in the idea of immigrants, and they start saying immigrants, when they're really talking about illegal immigrants, ask them to clarify. When you talk, this issue we're talking about, we're talking illegal, we're talking legal. Because they continue to try to get people and sway people's thoughts as though it's melded together and they're all one. You wouldn't want to celebrate the idea that the 18th Street Gang commits less murders than MS-13, would you? Why would we fall for this stupid argument that they keep throwing out there that illegals don't commit as many crimes? By the way, they do commit more crimes, percentage-wise.